Okay, well, unlike most people, I don't think I have too much to say about this episode, to be honest. I mean, like, that's not to say that, what we got in here was bad, but I think I've gotten too accustomed to watching Big Brother seasons recently because I'm used to, hearing a good amount of time between contestants before things change. So having to deal with the rapid fire pace that Survivor has now, especially when there's 20 people, yeah, it was kind of tough to deal with. Even though I'm sure I'm going to have a lot more emotion with these people later on. And that's not to say that this episode didn't have a lot of content in it. It did, okay? It's just I've gotten too accustomed to Big Brother style, right? So, things to mention here. I'm talking about the Gen X tribe first. Turns out what they showed in the previous next time on wasn't nearly as big of a deal because Paul didn't actually get pulled from the game, and I was kind of glad that he didn't because I didn't really want another Gary incident because that's pretty much his diagnosis. Heat exhaustion, except there was no allergic reaction to bugs because this is Fiji, ironically. Right. So I was glad that he didn't get pulled, although it makes me wonder how they're going to deal with the extra people this season, yeah. And then David finding the idol, that was kind of surprising, but it makes for an interesting dynamic. Although, I really am kind of shocked that they're not doing anything unusual with the idols this time. I mean, like, I'm kind of glad that they didn't do the tool with the idol again, because I felt like that was a little excessive. But the challenge hiding of the idols, I thought that was actually a pretty interesting idea. And then them not having the super idol clause, I feel like that only really works when there's free tries, because if there's two, odds are extremely, extremely low that you're going to be in a position to where they're going to be used, by people on the same side. Heck, I can't even recall a time other than maybe Nicaragua that both of the original idols were on the same side, and even then, the people who originally found them weren't on the same side. They just gave them to people who did end up aligning. Yeah, so, right. And that's really about all I can say there, except I'm not totally liking this huge six-person alliance necessarily ostracizing David, Cece, and what's that other guy's name? Ken, I think his name was, yeah, and I don't know, just I'm not really feeling this alliance. I do feel like there could be a stronger bond within the alliance, but yeah, given how we're not hearing from like half of them, because we're mainly hearing from the guys on the alliance and possibly Jessica because she's got the legacy advantage, which wasn't brought up, although there really wasn't much you could bring it up with, yeah. And then as for the Millennials, well, that was, they were just discussing, their characteristics of their generation, even though as, what's that guy's name that has like the hair that stands straight up and is kind of older? He doesn't entirely fit in. Although it was nice to see that like the super young cool guys club actually was able to work a little bit more momentum in there, but yeah, I don't know with these guys. Although I definitely do feel like going to tribal was the right move for them. And it was also nice to see a little bit from, what's that kid from high school with a deep voice, Will, I think his name was. I want to watch out for him. I'm not necessarily thinking that he's going to be like a powerhouse, but I do feel like he'll matter more than people give him credit for. So I want to see what his ultimate impact will be, right? There is other things I could mention, but I'm having trouble remembering the millennials' names, and I feel like we're going to get some fallout, so I'll just leave it at that. The challenge, that was a fairly nice challenge. Goes to show that even though the Gen X people do have a couple of slow people, they actually aren't that far apart, because really, other than David's performance, and then Cece not being able to untie the knots, they were neck and neck, and people have stated on the show over and over again that untying knots is pretty difficult, especially underwater. Now I know what you're thinking. In old school, they seem to do it pretty easy. Well, in old school, that was the status quo, so there could have been a little bit more of that behind the scenes. And you got to remember Ibrahim and Palau. Yeah, so. But. And as I stated, I was pretty glad that Gen X won because I just was not feeling them going to another tribal, at least currently, but the Millennials going, that was actually a good decision. So at first it looked like, same thing with Caramon, that the Young Cool Club was going to be ousted, but then due to some pretty interesting plucking of the strings with him, what's-his-face, Jay and Michelle, I think their names were, they were actually able to coax Will, Kayla, and what's-her-face, the nerdy chick, Hannah? Yeah, that was actually pretty surprising that they managed to get all three. I was pretty shocked that the vote was 7-3. I did foresee 6-4, and that Michaela would be the deciding vote, and I was very certain that Will had jumped ship to that side. And I don't totally get why Will and maybe Hannah was so much on the fence about, but people aren't going to trust me. Honestly, I think those two are actually in the clear from this particular round, okay? Because, as I stated for a couple of as I stated for Tony and Kagayan, all they have to say is, hey, they pressured me to do it. They can easily put the blame on the people truly responsible for how the vote went down the way it did. Really. I think they're in the clear. So, how the vote ultimately went down, I do feel like the stronger female chick left. I'm having trouble remember her name now, Mari, something like that, because she was a fairly outspoken person, and it was a bit of a bummer to see her go. And Figgy, I personally see her as a little bit wooden right now, but it does make for an interesting tribal dynamic, and it'll be interesting to see where this team goes, yeah. And then as for that thingy that they're coming up with next week, definitely both tribes are going to have to be doing this bag drawing. And I strongly doubt that they're going to do 2 tribes to 3 tribes again, because that's something I don't think you can do too often, and because it was an all-star season, it was much easier to say we're doing things differently this time and deal with that. My personal thinking about that is that it's another one of those do-it-yourself challenges, like they did one time in Samoa and one time with One World, but it's, the tribes choose their own representatives, that kind of thing. That's what I think it is. I'm not entirely against them going to 3 tribes, however, I just don't see it.